The date is September 26, 1982. In a quiet living room in the small mining town of Cumberland, British Columbia, an elderly grandmother sits in her favourite chair. Her name is Donnie Rallison. To her neighbours, she is just a polite, retired woman who knits and tends to her garden. To her children, she is simply Mom. But tonight the television is on. The CBC programme The Fifth Dimension is airing a special documentary about the Second World War. For most of the episode, Donnie watches in silence. The black and white footage of soldiers and tanks flickers across the screen. Familiar, distant history. But then, there says two words that freeze the blood in her veins. Kana Morse. In an instant, the grandmother vanishes, and the terrified 19-year-old girl returns. Her face goes pale. She turns to her son, panic in her eyes, and whispers something that makes no sense in a peaceful Canadian suburb. I thought the men in suits were coming for me. For 40 years, Donnie had lived with a shadow over her shoulder. She believed that if she ever spoke those words, or even heard them spoken aloud, the government would arrive at her door to arrest her. She wasn't suffering from paranoia. She was suffering from the weight of an oath she had signed when she was just a teenager. An oath that said, "You will take this to the grave." Donnie Rallison was not just a grandmother. 4 decades earlier, she had been a member of one of the most secretive units in Allied history. She was a listener, a human weapon trained to intercept the frantic, coded screams of the Japanese Imperial Navy. But to understand why a simple TV show could terrify her in 1982, we have to go back to where the silence began, to a recruitment office in 1942, where a 17-year-old girl is about to tell the first lie of her new life. The year is 1942. The world is burning. In Europe, the Nazis are entrenched. In the Pacific, the Japanese Empire is expanding with terrifying speed, conquering island after island. On the west coast of Canada, paranoia is at an all-time high. Residents in British Columbia are blacking out their windows, terrified that a Japanese invasion fleet will appear on the horizon at any moment. Donnie Rallison wants to do her part. She walks into a recruitment office for the Canadian Women's Army Corps. She stands tall, looks the recruiting officer in the eye, and fills out her attestation paper. Name, Donnie Rallison. Age, 18. It is a lie. She actually had just turned 17 the month before enlisting. But in 1942, the Canadian Army isn't looking too closely at birth certificates. They need bodies. They need help. And Donnie is determined to serve, even if she has to bend the truth to get in. Initially, the Army sees her as they see most women in the Corps. Support staff, someone to type letters, file paperwork, or perhaps drive a light truck. She is sent for basic training, indistinguishable from the thousands of other young women donning the khaki uniform. But during her initial training, something happens that changes her trajectory. The instructors notice her hands. Donnie is fast. When she sits at a typewriter or a telegraph key, her fingers move with a fluidity and precision that stands out. She isn't just typing. She has a natural rhythm. In the world of signals intelligence, this is a rare commodity. The Army isn't looking for soldiers who can shoot straight. They are looking for soldiers who can listen perfectly. She is pulled aside from her unit. She is told she has been selected for special wireless training. It sounds vague, almost boring. Likely a cover to keep the other recruits from asking questions. She, along with a handful of other young women, is packed up and disappeared from the regular service records. They are not sent to a standard base. They are sent to a specialized school where the windows are barred and the doors are locked. They are told to forget everything they know about English. The language they are about to learn doesn't use the 26 letters of the alphabet. It uses an alien script of over 70 characters, spoken in a language none of them understand. Donnie Rallison thinks she has signed up to help the war effort. She has no idea she has just been recruited to hunt the Japanese Navy. The classroom at the wireless school is stark and loud. The air is filled with the high-pitched whine of oscillators and the clatter of telegraph keys. Donnie sits in a row of other young women, headphones clamped over her ears. They are about to attempt something that breaks most experienced operators. They are learning Kana Morse. To understand the difficulty, you have to understand the math. Standard International Morse Code, the language of the Allies, is based on the English alphabet. 26 letters, 10 numbers. It is a logical, rhythmic system. But the Japanese Navy doesn't speak English. They use a syllabary called katakana. Instead of 26 simple letters, there are over 70 distinctive characters. And unlike English, which forms recognizable words, the Japanese Navy encrypts everything into groups of 5 random digits. Donnie isn't listening for words like ship or attack. She is listening for endless streams of gibberish. 15982 33041. It is a test of pure mental endurance. The operators have to transcribe these code groups at high speeds for hours on end without making a single mistake. A single wrong digit could mean the difference between sinking an enemy battleship and bombing an empty patch of ocean. The training is brutal. Many recruits, both men and women, wash out. Their brains simply can't process the music of the code fast enough. Those who fail are quietly returned to regular duty, to peel potatoes or drive trucks, never knowing what they almost became. But Donnie doesn't fail. She discovers she has a good ear. The chaotic beeps of the Kana code start to slow down in her mind. She stops hearing noise and starts hearing patterns. Because of her speed and accuracy, she is selected for the next level of clearance. Before she can proceed, she is taken into a room and made to sign a second, even more restrictive document, the Secret War Act Agreement. The officer makes it clear. Nothing she sees, hears, or does from this moment on can ever be discussed. Not with her parents, not with her friends, not even with the other girls in her barracks if they aren't cleared. She is effectively erased from the public war effort. August 1943. Donnie arrives at her post. Number 3 Special Wireless Station, often called Number 3 SWS, in Gordon Head, just outside Victoria, British Columbia. From the road it looks unremarkable. It is an old farmhouse tucked away in the trees. There are no massive barbed wire fences or tank traps. If you walked past it, you would think a local family lived there. But inside, the domestic illusion shatters. The interior is gutted. The living room is filled with rows of heavy tables and racks of humming electronics. The air is hot, smelling of ozone, floor wax, and the relentless cloud of cigarette smoke that hangs over every military facility in the 1940s. Donnie takes her seat in front of an HRO receiver. She puts on her headset. The world outside disappears. She is now hunting. Her target is the Japanese fleet operating in the Central Pacific, specifically the base at Truk Lagoon, the fortress of the Imperial Navy. Over the coming weeks, Donnie learns a skill that no machine can replicate. Intelligence officers call it the fist. Just as every person has a unique voice, every Morse operator has a unique way of tapping the key. Some are heavy-handed, some are light. Some have a slight hesitation before certain numbers. It is a sonic fingerprint. Donnie listens to the same Japanese operator night after night. She doesn't know his name or his face. She only knows his rhythm. She calls him Tucker 3. She knows when Tucker 3 is tired. She knows when he is agitated. She knows him better than she knows some of the Canadian soldiers sleeping in the barracks next door. Then comes the night of September 10th, 1943. It is 4:15 in the morning, the graveyard shift. The station is quiet, save for the scratching of pencils and the low hum of the radios. Donnie is tracking Tucker 3. Suddenly the pattern breaks. The fist is the same. She knows it is him. But the numbers coming through her headphones don't make sense. The groups of 5 digits have shifted. The mathematical structure of the message is completely different. Her heart races. This isn't a mistake. This is a catastrophe. She grabs her pencil and scribbles a frantic note in the station logbook. Fist unchanged. New additive. Then, in a moment of pure human reaction, she writes a personal note next to the official entry. My guy just changed. She doesn't realize it yet, but she has just witnessed a pivot point in the Pacific War. The Japanese Navy has just introduced a new codebook for their JN-25 system. In an instant, Allied intelligence has gone blind. But because Donnie was listening, because she knew her guy, the Allies know exactly when the blackout began. By 1945, the war has dragged on for 6 years. The tide is turning, but the danger is far from over. In the middle of this high-stakes tension, a new face arrives at Number 3 SWS. His name is Ross Jenkins. He is a tall, 19-year-old radio operator from the Royal Canadian Air Force, RCAF. He has blue eyes, stands 5'10", And like Donnie, he has been pulled from regular duty for special tasks. He is sent to the secret farmhouse as part of a small group of RCAF high-speed intercept and direction-finding technicians to upgrade his skills. And his instructor is Donnie Rallison. In the cramped, smoke-filled rooms of the station, a romance begins. It happens in the quiet moments between shifts, over cups of cold coffee and the relentless static of the receivers. They are two teenagers carrying the weight of state secrets, finding comfort in the only other person who understands the pressure. But this is not a normal courtship. Looming over them is the shadow of Operation Downfall, the planned Allied invasion of the Japanese home islands. Every soldier and spy knows what is coming. The military is predicting a bloodbath. They expect over 1 million Allied casualties. Ross knows that at any moment his orders could come through, shipping him out to the Pacific meat grinder. They decide they aren't going to wait. They are going to get married. Now. On June the 20th, 1945, in the heat of the final summer of the war, they rush to make it official. But there is a problem. They both live and work at a top-secret facility that officially doesn't exist. They cannot list number 3 Special Wireless Station on a legal document. It would be a breach of the Official Secrets Act. So they lie again. Look closely at their marriage certificate. Under the column for bachelor's residence, Ross writes, 1644, 13th Avenue West, Vancouver. Under spinster's residence, Donnie writes, 1171, Rockland Avenue, Victoria. These are fake addresses. They are random houses in the city, miles away from the secret station in the woods where they actually sleep. Even the witnesses are in on the deception. Their friends from the unit, Shirley Rhodey and Nick Franciscone, sign the document as witnesses. They, too, list the identical fake civilian addresses to protect the cover of the group. It is a wedding built on necessary lies. There is no time for a honeymoon. After the ceremony, they simply go back to the farmhouse, put on their headsets, and go back to hunting the enemy. August 1945. The atomic bombs fall. Japan surrenders. The Second World War is finally over. For the world, it is a moment of jubilation. But for the spies at number 3 SWS, it is a moment of revelation. The pressure that has crushed them for years suddenly lifts. And nothing illustrates this shift better than looking at 2 weddings, separated by just 6 months, but a lifetime apart in reality. In December 1945, with the war won and the secrecy orders relaxed, 2 familiar faces walk down the aisle, Nick Franciscone and Shirley Rhodey. Remember them? They were the witnesses who signed Donnie and Ross's fake marriage certificate with fake addresses back in June. They were part of the same secret unit, living in the same shadows. But look at their wedding. They are discharged and out of uniform in Nick's hometown of Regina. Their wedding is announced in the local newspaper for all to see. The article describes Shirley wearing a gown of embossed organza with a Chantilly lace veil held in place by a Mary Stuart headdress. It is a celebration, a public declaration of love and a future. They are free to move to Oregon, to become civilians, to leave the darkness of the intercept room behind. Now, compare that to Donnie and Ross just 6 months earlier. No cathedral, no newspaper announcement, no embossed organza, just a terrifying rush in uniform to legalize their bond before one of them was sent to die. One wedding was an act of celebration, the other was an act of survival. With the war over, the station is dismantled. The HRO receivers are unplugged. The farmhouse goes back to being just a farmhouse. Donnie and Ross trade their uniforms for civilian clothes. But while the war is over for the world, it isn't over for them. Because before they left the service, they were reminded of that piece of paper they signed, the Secret War Act. It didn't have an expiration date. It didn't say secret until 1950. It said forever. And so the silence begins. A silence that will last for 40 years, until a television show in 1982 threatens to tear it all down. The decades pass. The 1950s turn into the 60s. Donnie and Ross build a life. But they raised their children in homes devoid of history. Their children know their parents served in the war. They see the old photos in the albums, Mum in her khaki uniform, Dad with his RCAF cap. But when they ask, "What did you do?" the answers are always deflected. "I was a teletype operator," Donnie would say. Ross would simply say, "What I did was important." It was a wall built of loyalty. They believed that the safety of their country still depended on their silence. They never bragged. They never joined the Legion to swap war stories over beer. They simply kept the secret. Even when the 1982 TV show The Fifth Dimension airs and Donnie panics, thinking the men in suits are coming, she refuses to tell the whole story. She gives her son a glimpse, a mention of Kana, and then she shuts the door again. 2 years later, in 1984, Donnie passes away. Ross follows her shortly after. They are buried together, and as far as they knew, they had succeeded. They had taken the secrets of No. 3 SWS to the grave, just as they had promised. But the government hadn't forgotten them. It takes another 30 years, an entire lifetime, for the final piece of the puzzle to arrive. On September the 20th, 2017, a letter arrives for their son, Larry, from Veterans Affairs Canada. Inside is an apology and a revelation. The letter explains that back in 1945, the government had issued service medals for Donnie and Ross, the Canadian Volunteer Service Medal and the War Medal 1939 to 1945, but they were never delivered. Why? Because the addresses they had listed on their discharge papers were fake or outdated, part of the chaotic secrecy of their lives at the time. The medals had been returned to Ottawa, marked undeliverable. For 72 years, those medals sat in a vault, waiting for an owner who couldn't be found. When Larry finally opens the box, the medals gleam as if they were minted yesterday. It is a bittersweet moment. Donnie and Ross never got to wear them. They never got to stand in a parade and hear people clap for what they did. But perhaps that is exactly how they wanted it. They didn't serve for the applause. They didn't serve for the medals. They served because, in 1942, a 17-year-old girl walked into a recruitment office and decided that her country needed her more than she needed the truth. They were the silent guardians of the Pacific, and today, finally, we can say it loud enough for them to hear. Thank you. Donnie Rallison was forced to keep her story a secret for 40 years. She couldn't share it with the world, but you can. If you believe this story deserves to be known, please take a moment to click the like button. It does more than just help our channel. It helps the algorithm share this forgotten history with a new generation. And if you want to uncover more lost stories from the Second World War, please subscribe. We're digging into the archives every week to ensure that heroes like Donnie and Ross are never erased again. We are building a global community here, from Texas to Tasmania, from veterans to students. We would love to know who you are. Leave a comment below and tell us where you are watching from today. You are part of something special. By watching, you are keeping their memory alive. We will see you in the next chapter of history.